Everybody, this is Paul Hitchcock. I'm the founder and president of Giant Jacks Media. This is my channel called Giant TV, where I have entrepreneurs on here doing amazing things. And certainly Kimberly Layne Roberts and Geff Woodward are two of them. Welcome, both of you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Paul. It's a joy to be here, and it's wonderful to have a conversation with Geff. So
Yeah,
great insight.
I'm really looking forward to this. The title of this episode is the new era of financial transparency and lending. And Kimberly, you are a trusted executive coach. We've known each other for a bit and a Vistage chair in the Marin County area for entrepreneurs. And Geff, you are the founder and CEO of VeraScore. So I want to let two of you expand a little bit on what you're focused on and then I know we have some content we're going to jump right into. Let's go. Kimberly, you want to start?
Sure, sure. Thank you, Paul. So yes, I work with CEOs and founders who are building something that matters. Every one of my members of my group are founders. I have one appointed CEO, but I think what makes my members different than an appointed CEO is that you really find that they're working on something that they're passionate about. They've created their business out of a passion and a need to solve a problem, and they're doing something that matters. And so it's very joyful for me to coach them, to facilitate the group, and just it's joyful to see how this peer groups help them move that mission along. Geff is one of those members. As you mentioned, he's CEO of VeraScore. It's a fintech company, and he's trying to solve a problem around financial health and giving access to people that might not appear financial healthy using the typical credit score. And he's got a whole system using AI to make cash available for people that otherwise are not served. So, just for a little bit of background about Geff too, he has over 30 years of building companies and advising companies like Visa, Walmart, and Chevron, and obviously brings that to the table with his VeraScore. So, Geff, anything you want to add to that on your background?
I just want to say, Geff, I didn't know AI was a thing. Is AI a thing these days?
It's just beginning to be a thing. There are hints on the horizon. No, I think that's pretty good, Kimberly. I think, well, one thing I would say, our entrepreneur group is very different because it's the only group of entrepreneurs in Vistage, which is fascinating. It's also run by a woman. Most of the groups are run by men, and about half of our members are women, which is nice. So we've got a nice balance, which I appreciate.
It's great.
Uh, Personally. And then, so what VeraScore does, we're trying to solve that problem of, getting people access to credit and loans. But what we're really doing is the US economy is plus or minus $30 trillion on any given day. 19 trillion of that is based on all the consumer lending, car loans, house loans, credit cards, student loans, et cetera. But that's only based out of 6 out of 10 Americans. The other 4 in 10 do not have access to credit. Half of them, or 50 million American, are credit invisible or unscorable. That means they don't have a credit score. A lot of college kids. And the other half are considered deep subprime, so they have a credit score below 620. We can help all of them from day one, and help them understand their financial health and get access to credit and loans that they can afford. So we built this. It's a very different kind of product in that we flip the model completely. So the consumer owns their data, they own their score, they decide when it gets permission to the lender when they apply for a loan or credit. And we don't have a hard credit inquiry. So you could look at your score 100 times a day as a consumer, give it to 100 lenders, nothing happens until you take on additional credit or loan. For the lenders, what we're doing for them is we're qualifying that consumer, not pre-qualifying, but actually qualifying that consumer for the loan or credit they can afford based on their cash flow. And we're doing that in less than 5 minutes. So it's a very different model from the credit scores.
Yeah, I think you've commonly heard and you commonly state that you're disrupting the whole credit industry, lending industry. So, what I love too about what you're doing, it's become not just an opportunity, it's become a necessity. You're really driven about this and determined about this. So, was there a point in this journey when you decided to solve this problem, or what was the pivotal moment for you?
Oh yeah, I have worked since I was 8 years old. Um, Oldest of 5 kids, Roman Catholic, all that stuff. Very strong work ethic. I'd always paid my bills. My parents didn't really, we were middle class. They didn't really teach us how to budget, but a lot of that isn't taught. Uh, Went through college, got my MBA, ended up working. I had a perfect credit score, and I got laid off from a position that I wasn't all that excited about, and thought, okay, I've always wanted to start a company because I worked for a lot of startups as the lone business person. So I had this idea. I started this company, and then I was trying to raise money. It was my very first one, and I made the classic founder mistake of funding my own company. Don't ever do that. Uh, it's funny because I had excellent credit. This was 2005 and six, 4, 5, and 6. And credit card companies were literally throwing 25, 35, $45,000 credit cards at me without a income verification, which I thought was a little crazy. But I had faith in myself, like a crazy startup founder does, and thought, no problem, I'll get it funded, I'll pay it back. And long story short, I didn't. So I hit that wall pretty hard and had to file bankruptcy, which was not the best moment of my life. But it was an incredible learning experience. I tried to do all the right things, and my bankruptcy attorney said, no, you can't do that. That's not how the system works. And I remember sitting in the bankruptcy court in the spring of 2007. I like to be a cautionary tale, so I did all this stuff before the housing crisis. And I'm watching everybody in there, and it's a very long room, painted that beige, and you got the bankruptcy judges up in the front. And I noticed that most of the people in there were either sitting in a wheelchair and or tied to an oxygen tank. And I looked at my lawyer and I said, "What's going on here?" And she said, "It's medical debt." I'm like, "Okay, that makes sense."
Oh God.
That's
But the couple
horrible.
in front of me, 20s, blonde, literally just came off the tennis court. They're still in their tennis whites. And I overheard theirs, and they got to keep their house, the Mercedes, and you knew they were just going to rack it back up. And I'm like, this system doesn't work
Yeah.
at all. So I thought, really, we should come up with an alternative. And I came up with the idea. This was 2007, but I had to wait for technology and data to catch up. Started the company in 2020. Um, so far, we've raised the majority of our seed round. We're still got a little bit left. We've got our first customer. We've got our platform. We're ready to pilot it, and we're just looking for additional pilots and investors. So it's an oversight success that's taking 6 to 7 to 8 years, which is most startups it does to get there.
Great, thank you for that. I know it's a very vulnerable moment for you, but I think it's a worthy story for people to hear because it comes out of passion, out of your own personal need. Can you give us a real world example of someone who looks risky on paper, say according to FICO or their credit score, but is actually a great borrower? And how does your AI driven insights and cash flow demonstrate their financial health in a different way?
Yeah, so a good example is a Gen Z or millennial. They've been raised on debit cards, so they're living within their means, but they don't have a credit score. They're making money, they're used to digital banking, using Venmo and things like that, but they're not seen because they're not in the traditional credit system. I love people who are living on debit cards because they're already living within their means, and then we can teach them to
Yeah.
use credit responsibly, which is because credit's a pretty powerful thing. Likewise, the flip side of that is you've got the person with an 825 credit score. They look great, but they could be inches away from bankruptcy. They're just paying everything on time. And that was what happened with the housing crisis. If VeraScore existed in 2007, the housing crisis never happens, which is a bold but accurate statement.
Yeah, I love that, and I think this is showing up in all areas of the world and even needs to be in leadership as well. And you're leading with that, but just this whole thing of radical transparency about the lending situation, what works for the particular client, the individual owns their data, the individual sees their financial score. You actually give them tools to help them. Uh, Move different levers to improve their financial health, right? In that whole app that you provide, the member app versus the lender app. Is that correct?
Yeah, it was funny. I was talking to a banker, and I was a third of the way through the presentation explaining it to him, and he goes, "Well, how do you treat near subprime and subprime?" And I said, "Stop. That's apples and Volkswagens. You're talking about credit score language that we don't deal with. We're looking at the consumer holistically. So when a consumer signs up, they upload all of their accounts just like you would for Mint or Rocket Money. And then we pull 2 years worth of transactions, read only, run it through our score, which is a deterministic algorithm, it's math. The AI components that we have will look at your score and give you targeted financial recommendations for how to improve that score the next month. Our score can go up and down just as fast. So it's not a long time to go up and then you go down overnight. Plus, so we've got 2 years worth of data, and every month we pull that data again. So it's a living score. It's very different from a credit score. A credit score is like
Hmm.
trying to drive down the highway with only a rearview mirror. It's you're looking in the past, and you know you've got a significant amount of defaults because of that, because you're not seeing where that consumer is going in the future. The other thing that's very different in how we did this is we're not strictly, as a fintech, we're not strictly focused on the lender. We're B2B to C, so the lender is our customer, but we do that to also support the consumer, because once you have a strong lender and consumer relationship, suddenly the economy gets much stronger. And again, if you go back to the fact that our $30 trillion economy, 2/3 of that is based on consumer debt, that scares me. And I'm not even an economist. It's like, I want an
Yeah.
economy that's strong. If you have weakness, like we did during the housing crisis, where they were given loans to anybody with a pulse, that's a problem. And we saw what happened there. And I'm trying to avoid that going forward.
Yeah, I just love the whole big picture that you're thinking about it. It's you're on a mission. It's not about the money. It's about solving a problem and helping our economy as well. So I love that. Every founder hits a wall, a moment where, the mission might not be clear, the path forward might not be clear, there's bumps in the road. What would you say has been your hardest decision you've had to make in building VeraScore?
Uh,
And what helped you make it, I guess, too,
there isn't just one.
or
uh,
a recent one?
I think the challenge that I'm having, we're disrupting a very conservative industry, the banking industry. We're working with very conservative clients, credit unions and community banks. So that's a shift. We're also disrupting an established player, FICO. It's any one of those would be hard. We're doing three of them, so that is a bit of a challenge. I feel good about it. I mean, we've done a vector graph that shows. In fact, this is really fascinating. I learned this at FinTech Meetup. FICO has had a hold on this. They were brilliant in that in the early 80s when they first started, they convinced Fair Isaac convinced Fannie and Freddie, who buy 80% of mortgages, to require a FICO score. In fact, most consumers think FICO is a government score. It's not. It stands for Fair Isaac and Company. For the first
Huh.
time a year and a half ago, Fannie and Freddie agreed to look at an alternative score. Now they're looking at Vantage Score, which is broken in all the same ways that FICO is, but the fact they're looking at something different is huge. So that was in the summer of 2024. In the fall of 2024, the Treasury Department came out with guidance to lenders who were doing underwriting risk analysis for their consumers to look at cash flow. So I've been talking about this for 6 years, and people are just starting to catch up, which is good. So I feel like we were probably a little early. That can happen. We also were stuck. One of the big challenges we had were that when I started the company in 2020, we were still operating on the old engineering model. I live in the Bay Area. Engineers are very expensive, and with a startup where you're trying to raise money, that's a big cost, and it's also a big a challenge to get the product built. Through that time with Chad and the other AI, especially Replit and some of those Cursor, now you can do vibe coding, which is a thing because Peter Paul, you wanted to talk about AI. We can talk about AI. That's happening now. So we hit that. We kind of rode that. So I've got a little bit of a hangover, um, technologically and from a cost perspective on that, which is normal. And now we're in this new world. But we embraced AI completely. In fact, our lenders app was built only using AI and has 30,000 lines of code in it. The members app, which was built originally through traditional engineering, has 500 to 750,000 lines of code in it. It's about the same complexity. So that's a huge shift. Some other things that I had to do, in fact, you helped me with this when we first met. I had to remove my co-founder and CTO because he kind of abandoned the company, and that was really challenging. I lost my sales guy 4 years ago. He was also a good friend. He died suddenly at the age of 49, which is
Oh.
that was a body.
Yeah.
So it's funny. One of my my very first investor, Jim Freeze, I met him for the first time last fall in DC when I was out visiting. And he said to me, I'm really impressed with the fact that you just keep going. And I'm like, I don't have a choice. I mean, my investor trusted me. I've got to make this happen, and I will. It's just it's hard.
Right.
It's hard. Yeah. You can't, because you can't control everything, and there's different things that come your way, and timing is everything. And now finally FICO and the whole credit score app, and Fannie Mae are now open to looking at alternatives where they weren't when you had this wonderful ideas. But I think your momentum is shifting, and it's shifting quickly, and it's going in the right direction. And you're ready to launch. So any investors out there, I would highly recommend. I'm actually investing in Jeff's company. As I believe in it so much, and for not only for the technology and the AI, but also what it's doing on a larger economic scale for people, for the younger generations to follow, and for lenders as well. You are part of my Chief Entrepreneur Peer Group. So I'd love you to just share kind of your personal opinion about what it's been like for you, what has been advantageous for you. Was there a specific conversation that's helped you shift your idea about the business? Just where was the value for you coming into something and never having experienced a Vistage uh, peer group, let alone a Chief Entrepreneur Peer Group?
Yeah, I think for me, it's whatever I say to people when people ask me this question is it's like therapy for your career, which sounds a little hokey, but that's not what I mean. Um, Being a founder and a CEO is hard, and only other people that have done it understand that. And so being in a group of other people who are going through the same things that I'm going through is huge. Even the other people in my company, they sort of see what I do. They don't really understand it. That's not their fault. They're very bright people, but unless you're doing this job, you don't really get how hard this job is. This is my third startup. It's by far the most successful one. I've learned along the way, like don't self-fund your startup. But actually, my last one, Wine Valet, which was about 15 years ago, a lot of that technology actually migrated into VeraScore and created some of the ideas there. So you always learn, and you've got to take that with you. I think for me, the ability to talk to other founders who not only get what I'm going through but understand, they can come up with a slightly different take on it. My my challenge is as bright as I am, I'm stuck in my head, and that's a very dangerous place for me to be on my own. So getting that feedback from other people is super helpful.
Yeah, thank you for that. Yeah. I love the composition of a group. As I am still growing it. We have 11 members, and obviously I'm trying to get 6 or 7 more in various industries. But I just love how everybody shows up in this confidential space, and it's challenging for you guys because, especially as a founder, you're kind of keeping the flag going. You're running down and everything's falling apart potentially. You didn't raise money or no one's buying in, but you're still holding that big flag running down the field, going for the goal line, right? And you have to stay strong on that. You have to be confident in that. But where do you go to talk about your concerns? Where do you talk about, I'm challenged raising money, or I'm having issues with my co-founder, or I can't seem to keep anybody accountable, or I'm just lonely, or I feel like sometimes I'm an imposter. And because I think when you are a founder too, not only do you have the pressure of building a business, but because you're the face of the business, there's a whole emotional thing that goes on, I think, in starting your own company, which I think the group helps with, and just building up people's confidence, and getting you out of the chief everything officer to really truly being a CEO. Because once you start a business and doing everything, if you want to scale, you've got to slowly remove yourself out of that, and sit in the CEO chair and learn to delegate and let go. And that's hard when it was your baby that you created. So thank you for addressing all that.
Can I
Any
ask a quick
comment?
question? Can I ask
Yeah,
a quick
sure.
question? So, because Kimberly and Jeff, you're meeting monthly, right? So all
Correct.
this entrepreneurs you meet monthly at a location, and what happens in that monthly?
Great question. Sometimes we have a speaker, but probably the commonalities on every meeting are we do personal check-ins with regards to people and how they're it's a quick pulse about where are they personally, professionally, maybe health-wise. Why? Because it's a quick way to level set. So if someone's say they're like a 5 personally and they share, my son just got diagnosed with ADHD, or I'm having troubles with my marriage, but then it helps the group meet them where they're at versus trying to guess through some of the just conversation. So it
Yeah.
level sets and everybody gets a good idea about where is everybody sitting on an emotional level, mental level, business level. So we do that. I usually do some interactive exercise to help build leadership skills or communication skills or AI skills. We sometimes have a speaker. The last couple have been around understanding financial health, financial readiness. I mean, you might be an expert on marketing, but not everybody is an expert in reading their balance sheets and making sure
Yeah.
people have a financial acumen that I think is necessary as a CEO. We always have a host presentation, so every member gets an opportunity to host a meeting. What does that mean? They get to pick the spot. More importantly, they get to showcase their business. And I mean, not just how many flavors of ice cream you have and how great it is. I want to hear when the ice cream melts, where, you went days gone by and nobody bought an ice cream, having cash flow problems. I mean, because it's your privileged hour to have the group help solve your problems and help get you on track and tell you what you can improve on, what are you doing right, what could possibly be a better way to do some things. So it's your opportunity to really get the great feedback that the group can provide. And then really the crux of it is around issue processing. I hate to use the word issue. I still haven't come up with a better word, but it's where everybody gets an opportunity and must come to the group with a challenge they are facing, and asking for the group opinion, help, resources, whatever. Sometimes it's a simple, hey, I've got a trust attorney I can connect you with. Sometimes it's the person's in their own way. It's a control thing,
Right.
or
Right.
they don't like to delegate, so it can be very vulnerable. It can be just very tactical, but that's really I think the power of the group. People love that process the most, and I try to create as much time as possible around that. And we always have fun. We do outings outside of the meeting for those that want to attend happy hours or dinners or comedy clubs, or we try to have some fun outside of the group as well.
Yeah,
Jeff,
Jeff,
would
in
you add
this,
anything to that?
yeah, I was gonna say, are the entrepreneurs networking outside of that meeting too? Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, I think we do. I mean, what I would add to that is I think it's really important because we kind of understand each other. It gives us a space to actually have those conversations. I mean, even your spouse or your significant other or your dog, in my case, doesn't really get what I think they
The dog.
talk to somebody else who gets the challenges. And I mean, I don't want to sound like I'm whining about it. It's hard, it's lonely, and it's not for everybody, and that's okay. Sorry. Apparently there's something going on. But it gives us a space to kind of explore that with other people who can understand it. It is unique. I mean, I know everybody, everybody looks at startup founders like Steve Jobs and these crazy people that do that. And fair enough. Steve was a crazy, great guy who actually built a really wonderful company. But he and Bill Gates have 9 different skill sets that most people don't have. Like, I will never grow this. I will never run this company when it's billions of dollars. If we get there, when we get there. But I absolutely need to get it from here to the next step. I don't
Yeah.
trust anyone else to do that with my vision. It's not that I don't trust people. It's just I know exactly where I want to take this up to a certain point, and then I'll give it to somebody else to run because that's just not what I do.
Yeah. So yeah, Jeff's a very involved member. You get out of it what you put into it. And he's very vulnerable. He's very active. He's got a plethora of resources he constantly shares with the group, and has a lot of side conversations. We had another individual who was trying to raise money, and Jeff, in his experience, is very familiar with that and was able to give some great guidance. So it's some people do business together. That is not a requirement. Like we have an accountant and sometimes she gets business, but it's really what's beautiful, you get the expertise in the room. We have a marketing person that helped Jeff with his pitch deck because her marketing abilities are just off the chart, her storytelling, right? So, but yet she might not have the financial acumen, right? So it's fascinating to see how every person has a contribution that's significant to every member in their business and helping them advance forward. So it's for me, it's such a joy. I have seen everybody grow dramatically within a 6 months, year's time, especially. And it's that's the joy that I get out of it. And it's fascinating. And my ultimate goal is have everybody, scale their business to whatever size they want. That's the end goal. So
Yeah, I had a question about that because I imagine you've got a lot of personalities in the room, type A personalities of entrepreneurs running businesses. I mean, Jeff's a very nice guy and he's a founder, and there's probably a common theme there running through all the founders. Your job, Kimberly, is I know you have some open seats. I want to hear who you're looking for, but it's got to be the right fit too. I mean, it's not a Tom, Dick, Harry, and Jane thing. Oh, come on, join our group. Who is the right person and who are you looking for?
yeah, From an industry perspective, I don't need an accountant, a fractional CFO. I wouldn't mind an attorney, an architect, somebody else in the AI space, somebody who has products or manufacturing. Um, Obviously, anybody who's a founder, I would be very interested in. My requirement is when I'm interviewing people is how vulnerable are you is my biggest question. And I typically ask, what is the first impression that people get wrong about you? That's one of my favorite questions because that shares a lot how vulnerable they are. Um, uh, I have a few people that are quiet, and that is okay. We have a lot, including Jeff, that are pretty witty, and if you are okay with the witty and the banner and the camaraderie that develops out of that, we have a lot of fun and laugh a lot in our meetings. And you can partake in that, or just as long as you're okay with that. I mean, it's all done in fun. There's no you know, hard whatever. But
Yeah.
that would be, and be open to support, be open to people to help you. That's what we're all there is to help you. If you're kind of saying I got it all covered, probably not the person in the room, because everybody needs some support and help and to receive that is wonderful. And obviously to be able to contribute back and what your expertise is. So that's kind of what I would round out and saying.
I love it. Yeah. And so as we kind of hit a time wall here, I just want to say for me, people have an idea of what a peer group can be about if they've heard about it. I love having people like you on because they get to see the human beings behind it. They see Kimberly, you running it and what you're doing, and then Jeff, real life stories. I mean, you both have opened up. I think it's awesome. I have all the respect in the world for both of you and for Vistage. I love it. I want to thank you both for being here. And I want to tell everybody that wherever you're seeing this, because we simulcast this everywhere, it goes on YouTube, LinkedIn, it's out there. Wherever you're watching it around, it may be up here, down here. Contact information for both these folks will be there. Connect with them. And if you want to get in touch, we're going to make it easy for you. Any parting words, Kimberly and Jeff?
No, thank you. Yeah, feel free if you're alone or just looking for a peer group or feel like you might be appropriate, just reach out. We can have a conversation. There's no obligation. And just as a punch for Jeff, like I mentioned, I invest in his company because I believe in what he's doing, and hopefully there's some others out there that would want to contribute to his great cause as well on his behalf.
Jeff, thanks for being here.
Oh, thanks for having me.
Great. Thanks,
Yeah.
Paul. Appreciate the time.
Okay, we'll see you both real soon.
All right.